Most people don't fail because they dream too big. They fail because they stop when the dream demands pain. At 17 years old, a quiet, intense kid from South Africa left home with a one-way ticket and a head full of impossible ideas. No safety net, no powerful family connections, no guarantee of success. Just books he had devoured, questions he couldn't stop asking, and a burning obsession with the future. He wasn't chasing comfort. He was chasing significance. While others were planning careers, he was thinking about civilization. While others were worrying about fitting in, he was wondering how humanity would survive. That difference in focus, that scale of thinking, changes everything. Most people shrink their dreams to match their environment. Elon Musk expanded his environment to match his dreams. He believed something most people are too afraid to believe. That one person, armed with relentless clarity and an unreasonable work ethic, could bend the trajectory of entire industries. But belief alone doesn't build rockets. Belief is only the ignition. Clarity is the fuel. He asked first principles questions when everyone else followed tradition. Instead of asking, how have rockets always been built? He asked, what are rockets made of at their most basic components, and what should they cost? Instead of accepting the price tag of space travel, he broke it down to raw materials, steel, aluminum, fuel, engineering hours. Then he rebuilt the logic from the ground up. That's what most people refuse to do. They inherit limits. He dissected them. When he sold Zip2, he could have retired comfortably. When he sold PayPal, he could have disappeared into luxury. Instead, he poured almost everything back into ideas that experts said would fail. Electric cars? Impossible to scale. Private rockets? Too expensive. Colonizing Mars? Fantasy. But clarity of vision makes you immune to ridicule. He wasn't trying to look smart. He was trying to solve problems that mattered. He looked at the world and saw fragility, dependence on fossil fuels, a single-planet civilization vulnerable to extinction, traffic congestion strangling cities, and instead of complaining, he committed. That word, committed, is where most people fall away. It's easy to admire a vision. It's hard to dedicate your life to it. When Tesla was nothing more than a fragile startup, the auto industry giants laughed. Electric vehicles were considered slow, ugly, impractical, yet Musk insisted they could be faster, better, more desirable than gasoline cars. He didn't just want an electric car, he wanted the best car. That difference is everything. Average thinking aims to compete. Visionary thinking aims to redefine. He slept on factory floors. He reviewed engineering details at 3 a.m. He walked assembly lines, questioning bolts, wires, battery cells. When production stalled, he didn't delegate blame and he dove into the bottleneck. Because big dreams are not built by inspiration alone. They are built by obsession. And obsession is uncomfortable. When SpaceX launched its first rocket, it failed. Then the second. Then the third. 3 explosions. 3 public embarrassments. Millions burned. Headlines predicting collapse. Engineers exhausted. Investors nervous. Most people would have interpreted that as a sign to stop. He interpreted it as data. Failure wasn't humiliation. It was feedback. He didn't protect his ego. He protected the mission. On the edge of bankruptcy, with Tesla bleeding cash and SpaceX hanging by a thread, he made a decision most people would never dare to make. He put his last remaining funds into both companies, not cautiously, not half-heartedly, completely. That is risk in its purest form. Not reckless ignorance, but calculated, mission-driven risk fueled by conviction. Why do most people fail at big dreams? Because they want certainty before commitment. But certainty only appears after action. Musk acted first. He moved while fear was loud. He understood something brutal and liberating. If something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. That mindset separates spectators from builders. When the 4th SpaceX rocket finally reached orbit, it wasn't just metal breaking through atmosphere. It was proof that persistence can rewrite probability. NASA contracts followed. Tesla survived its darkest hour. The breakthrough didn't come from luck. It came from endurance, from the willingness to stand in fire longer than anyone else. Clarity gave him direction. Vision gave him scale. Purpose gave him stamina. And purpose is what most people lack. He wasn't chasing money. He reinvested it. He wasn't chasing applause. He invited criticism. He was chasing impact, sustainable energy, multiplanetary life, high-speed transportation, brain-computer interfaces. When your purpose is larger than your comfort, discipline becomes non-negotiable. He worked 80 to 100 hours a week, not because someone forced him to, but because the mission demanded it. He studied rocket science by reading textbooks. He asked engineers relentless questions. He dove into physics, manufacturing, artificial intelligence. He became dangerous through knowledge, because dreams without competence collapse. He didn't outsource understanding. He built it. And that's where the real lesson begins to sharpen. Most people want the title without the transformation. They want the breakthrough without the breakdown. But breakthroughs are forged in moments when quitting feels logical, when critics are loud, when cash is low, when exhaustion is real, and you choose to continue anyway. He wasn't fearless. He was focused. Fear is natural, but focus is a decision. And when your focus locks onto a future that doesn't yet exist, a future you feel responsible to create, pain becomes part of the contract. The factory floor, the exploding rockets, the public doubt. The sleepless nights, they weren't obstacles. They were tuition, and he paid it in full. Because once you understand that pain is tuition, everything changes. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what is this teaching me? That shift and that single internal pivot is where resilience is born. When Tesla entered what many called production, hell, it wasn't a metaphor, it was chaos. Bottlenecks everywhere, robots malfunctioning, cars delayed, cash reserves draining fast, analysts predicting collapse, employees stretched to their limits. The pressure was suffocating. He could have stepped back. He could have protected his reputation. Instead, he moved into the factory. He slept there. He worked alongside engineers, tearing apart systems, simplifying processes, removing unnecessary complexity. He admitted publicly that he had over-automated production, that humans were underrated. He corrected course. That's adaptability, not stubborn attachment to ego, but stubborn commitment to the mission. Most people fail because they confuse persistence with rigidity. True persistence is flexible in method, unbreakable in purpose. When something didn't work, he didn't abandon the dream. He redesigned the approach. That's how rockets began landing themselves. Think about that for a moment. For decades, rockets were disposable, used once, then destroyed. The cost of access to space remained crushingly high because no one challenged that assumption deeply enough. He did. Why can't rockets land? Why can't they be reused? The first attempts were spectacular failures. Boosters tipping over, exploding on impact, missing landing zones. The internet turned each explosion into a meme. But iteration continued. Design, test, fail, learn, repeat. And then one day, a Falcon 9 booster descended from the edge of space. Engines firing, legs deploying and landed upright. History didn't shift with a scream. It shifted with a controlled landing. Reusability wasn't just engineering brilliance. It was a mindset in action. Refuse to accept waste. Question norms, persist through ridicule. Most people give up after public failure. He used public failure as propulsion because he understood something crucial. Progress is built on visible mistakes. Traffic congestion. If you're not failing in public, you're probably not pushing hard enough. That philosophy didn't stop with rockets. It extended into artificial intelligence with OpenAI's early support, into brain-computer interfaces with Neuralink, into underground transportation with the Boring Company. Each idea attacked what he saw as civilizational bottlenecks, limited human-machine bandwidth, energy dependence. He wasn't building companies. He was building leverage against stagnation, and leverage requires long-term thinking. While quarterly reports dominate headlines, he talks about decades, about Mars, about making life multiplanetary to safeguard consciousness itself. That scale of thinking rewires your tolerance for discomfort. When your time horizon is 30 years, short-term chaos loses its power over you. This is where most people collapse under big dreams. They underestimate the timeline. They expect rapid applause. They expect smooth progress. They expect clarity from others. But when you're building something that doesn't yet exist, clarity must come from within. And inner clarity demands solitude. Conviction often feels lonely. He endured waves of criticism, over-ambitious timelines, bold statements, unconventional leadership. Some criticism was fair, some wasn't. But the pattern remained the same. He absorbed it, filtered what was useful, discarded what wasn't, and kept moving. That's emotional discipline, not the absence of emotion, But the management of it, you cannot build at that scale if every headline controls your nervous system. You must anchor deeper, anchor in purpose, anchor in first principles, anchor in the belief that advancing humanity is worth personal discomfort. And yet, even with all the intensity, there is something else beneath the steel. Gratitude. Not the soft, performative kind, but the recognition that being alive at a time where rockets can be built by private teams, where electric vehicles can reshape transportation, where information moves at light speed, is an extraordinary privilege. He has said that waking up and believing the future will be better is powerful, that optimism isn't naive. It's strategic, because pessimism drains action, optimism fuels it. To attempt what he attempts, you must believe the future is worth fighting for, and fighting is exactly what it feels like. Against physics, against economics, against doubt, against your own exhaustion. But here is the paradox. The greater the resistance, the greater the growth. Every near bankruptcy, hardened decision-making. Every failed launch, refined engineering. Every production crisis, strengthened systems. Pressure did not destroy the mission. It refined it. Most people pray for easier lives. Visionaries build stronger shoulders. He didn't avoid pain. He metabolized it, converted it into clarity, converted it into innovation, converted it into momentum. That is why most people fail at big dreams. They want comfort and greatness in the same season. But greatness demands seasons of isolation, uncertainty, and relentless work. You will be misunderstood. You will be doubted. You will doubt yourself. And in those moments, the only thing that carries you forward is the decision you made long ago that the mission matters more than your mood. Imagine standing on a launch pad at dusk, the rocket towering above, years of work condensed into seconds. The engines ignite. The ground shakes. Flames roar. Metal strains against gravity. That is what pursuing a big dream feels like. Violent, uncertain, exhilarating. And if it fails, you gather the debris. You analyze the data. You build again. Because the breakthrough is not a single event. It is a pattern of relentless attempts. And eventually, gravity gives way. Gravity always gives way to those who refuse to kneel before it. But understand this clearly. The breakthrough is never just technical. It's internal. Before rockets land, before factories scale, before industries shift, a decision is made in the quiet. A decision that says, I will not live small. That decision is invisible to the world. No headlines cover it, no investors applaud it. It happens in the mind, and that is where the real war is fought. Elon Musk's greatest battles were not only against physics or manufacturing constraints. They were against limitation thinking. The deeply ingrained belief that certain things are just the way they are. Gas cars dominate. Rockets are disposable. Traffic is inevitable. Human cognition is capped. He refused to inherit those conclusions. He examined them. And when they didn't hold up under first principles reasoning, he dismantled them. That is intellectual courage. Not blindly believing you're right, but being willing to strip ideas down to their core components and rebuild from scratch. It's uncomfortable. It isolates you. Because when you think differently, you stand differently. And when you stand differently, you are exposed. There were moments when Tesla stock plummeted. Moments when media narratives painted collapse. Moments when employees felt the weight of impossible deadlines. In those moments, leadership is not about charisma. It is about steadiness. He doubled down on product, on engineering, on solving the actual bottleneck instead of soothing public perception. That is a rare discipline, focusing on substance while noise screams for attention. Noise is constant. Progress is quiet. Look at the gigafactories rising across continents, massive humming ecosystems, designed to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. They didn't appear overnight. They were built brick by brick, decision by decision, risk by risk. Resilience after failure, adaptation without ego, gratitude for the opportunity to build, and the courage to attempt what seems absurd. That is the formula most people avoid because it is uncomfortable. It demands everything. Time, energy, reputation, emotional endurance. But here is the truth that echoes through every factory floor and launch pad. The future does not belong to the cautious. It belongs to the committed. If something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. Those are not just words. They are a standard. A threshold, a challenge. Look at your own dream. Is it truly big, or is it adjusted to avoid ridicule? Are you waiting for confidence, or are you building competence? Are you demanding guarantees, or are you willing to step into uncertainty? Because the path of risk, pain, and breakthrough is not reserved for billionaires or rocket scientists. It is a mindset, a refusal to live on autopilot, a decision to engage fully with the hardest problems you can find. You may not build rockets, you may not launch cars into orbit, but you can adopt the same internal code. Think from first principles, commit fully, work relentlessly, learn publicly, adapt quickly, stay mission-focused, and believe that progress is possible. The engines are always there, waiting. Your doubt is gravity, your action is thrust, and the only question that remains is this: will you ignite? If this message moved something inside you, if you felt the tension, the urgency, the call to build beyond comfort, then this is your launch moment. Subscribe now for more life-changing motivation, and join a community committed not to small thinking, but to bold action. Because big dreams are not for the timid. They are for those willing to risk, endure pain, and break through. And the countdown has already begun.